Don't feel any different than being 79 so far. But who knows what another year will bring.
If you are a fan of the Mountain Men series, it's not impossible to be a fan of Tom Oar, too. This beloved, resilient man who lived for half a century in the wilderness with his wife and away from civilization has faced extreme physical, mental, and emotional challenges that made him leave that peace a lot of people desire and return to the city. What happened to Tom Oar will make you think about life and how brutal it could get. The defeat of Tom Oar. Tom Oar's journey is not just one of rugged survival and backwoods craftsmanship. It is a profound story of grit, transformation, love, and quiet tragedy. Known to millions as one of the central figures on History Channel's Mountain Men, Tom lived a life that many only dream about. Off-grid, independent, and deeply connected to nature. But behind the rustic charm of hand-sewn buckskin and snow-covered log cabins lies a life full of hard-earned wisdom, sacrifice, and resilience in the face of personal loss and physical decline. Born in 1943 in Rockford, Illinois, Tom was raised in a family deeply intertwined with the spirit of the American West. His father, Tom Oar, was a celebrated bronco buster and performer in the Wild West shows of the early 20th century. And that lifestyle deeply influenced Tom's path. From an early age, he was introduced to the rough-and-tumble world of rodeo, and it didn't take long for him to fall in love with it. He pursued a career as a professional bronc rider, earning recognition and respect across the country for his fearlessness and skill. But rodeo life is hard on the body, and by the time Tom reached his 30s, he knew he couldn't continue forever. It was in the 70s that Tom and his wife Nancy made the radical decision to abandon modern life and seek solitude in the remote Yaak Valley of northwestern Montana. At that time, very few people even knew where Yaak was. It's one of the most isolated areas in the lower 48 states. The decision wasn't about escape as much as it was about authenticity. Tom and Nancy wanted to live simply, live free, and rely on themselves and the land. They built a home by hand, endured long winters without electricity or running water, and learned to trap, tan hides, and make their own clothing. Over the years, Tom mastered the art of traditional tanning, becoming one of the most respected buckskin craftsmen in the country. The couple lived in harmony with the land, and their relationship grew even stronger in the face of the daily trials of wilderness life. Tom's life changed once more when the producers of Mountain Men discovered him in the early 2010. His authenticity was magnetic. Here was a man living exactly as he wanted, thriving in conditions most would find unbearable. Viewers were immediately drawn to his calm demeanor, work ethic, and clear love for his wife and animals. He wasn't trying to be a celebrity, he was just being Tom. And that's exactly why audiences fell in love with him. Over the years, the show chronicled his daily routines, chopping wood, repairing gear, hunting, and preparing for the brutal Montana winters. But the cameras also captured his humility, humor, and, increasingly, the signs of aging. As the years went on, Tom's body began to show the effects of both his rugged lifestyle and advancing age. In 2022, he began experiencing heart issues, shortness of breath, fatigue, and chest discomfort. Doctors discovered his heart was not functioning properly, and fluid had started to accumulate in his lungs. He was hospitalized, placed on medication, and instructed to wear a heart rate monitor. For a man used to physical labor and independence, these restrictions were difficult. But Tom, ever pragmatic, adjusted. However, in October 2024, his health took another downturn. Once again, he found himself in the hospital, this time with even more serious complications. It was becoming clear that the life he loved in the mountains was no longer sustainable. With great reluctance, Tom and Nancy made the decision to leave their beloved homestead in the Yaak and relocate to Florida in 2020. to be closer to their son, Chad. It was a heartbreaking choice. The homestead wasn't just a house. It was a lifetime of memories, a monument to their shared dream of living free and wild. Moving to Florida meant embracing a slower, less physically demanding lifestyle, and, more importantly, accepting the reality of aging and declining health. But it also meant more time with family, access to medical care, and a new kind of peace. Did they eventually go back home and made it to their families? Yes. Loss of a daughter. Amid their isolated natural world, family was always a central pillar. Tom was never alone in his pursuits. His wife Nancy was his partner in every sense. Their children, though living away from the Montana wilderness, remained deeply important to them. In 2015, their family was struck by a tragedy that would rock even the strongest foundation. Their daughter, Tom Oar, passed away in St. Petersburg, Florida. The cause of her passing was not widely publicized, and Tom has never spoken in great detail about it, which is a reflection of the private way he and Nancy handled their grief. But the silence around the tragedy does not minimize its weight. It only underscores how deeply personal and shattering the loss was. The death of a child is one of the most painful losses any parent can endure. It inverts the natural order of life. Children are supposed to outlive their parents, not the other way around. For someone like Tom, who finds strength and rhythm in the daily tasks of survival, chopping wood, preparing hides, mending tools, grief takes a different shape. It's not always loud or visible. It lingers in the quiet, in the early morning hours when the sun hasn't yet risen over the pines, in the stillness of the snow-covered woods. For Tom, it must have manifested in silence, in long moments spent with Nancy by the fire, or in the memories that come with a passing hawk, a piece of handmade leather, or a quiet walk in the trees. In many ways, the wilderness offered Tom both a sanctuary and a space for healing. The natural world does not offer condolences, but it does offer continuity. The sun rises and sets. The seasons turn. The land demands attention. And in meeting those demands, the human soul finds some measure of steadiness. Tom kept working. He kept building, tanning, teaching, and perhaps most importantly, he kept sharing his story, albeit in pieces, with the world through mountain men. His choice to remain engaged with the world, even in the face of unspeakable loss, was not a denial of grief, but a quiet resistance to being consumed by it. What is most remarkable about Tom Oar is his unwavering resilience. In the face of tragedy, many would retreat or break. But Tom continued to live the life he loved, not because it was easy, but because it was real. Resilience, as seen through Tom's life, is not about avoiding pain. It's about holding that pain and still choosing to wake up, to care for others, to continue building something meaningful. His decision to keep going, to face each new day in the Yak Valley, surrounded by snow and silence, was a powerful testament to his inner strength. The bond between Tom and Nancy was also a critical source of support in these times. Their relationship, forged over decades of hardship and shared dreams, became the emotional foundation upon which they navigated their loss. Together, they mourned. Together, they found comfort in the familiarity of their routines and the beauty of their environment. Their love story, simple, strong, enduring, is an overlooked but central part of Tom's ability to survive and thrive, despite heartbreak. Goodbye, peace. Back to the noise. As time passed, age and a changing circumstances prompted a significant transition. Tom Oar slowly began moving away from wilderness life toward a more conventional life closer to modern society. This shift was not sudden, nor was it an easy one. For someone like Tom, whose identity and lifestyle were so intricately tied to the wilderness, The idea of leaving it behind was emotional and deeply personal. The Oars lived for decades without most modern amenities, and they had always embraced simplicity. But as Tom aged into his 70s and beyond, concerns about healthcare access, harsh winters, and general physical strain began to outweigh the appeal of total isolation. It wasn't just about personal convenience, it became a matter of safety and survival. The once manageable labor of splitting logs and maintaining their remote homestead grew increasingly difficult, and the nearest hospital remained hours away, a precarious situation for any senior couple. Another factor influencing Tom's transition was his family. His children and grandchildren, who lived in more urban settings, expressed growing concerns about his well-being. As often happens with aging parents, the younger generation gently encouraged the idea of a move, not to strip away his independence, but to ensure he could still live comfortably and safely. After much contemplation, Tom and Nancy began to take steps toward a life closer to town, even if not entirely in the heart of a bustling city. The move was a compromise, closer to family, health services, and grocery stores, but still within reach of open spaces and quieter surroundings. Despite this shift, Tom Oar did not entirely abandon his roots. The essence of the wilderness man remains in him. Even in a more modern setting, he has continued practicing traditional skills like tanning hides and crafting custom leatherwork. These passions, once born out of necessity, now serve as both an art form and a bridge between the life he lived and the life he is adjusting to. Fans of mountain men have watched this evolution unfold, often expressing admiration for his ability to adapt without losing his core identity. For Tom, the move was not a surrender to modernity, but a thoughtful and necessary evolution in response to life's realities. The transition of Tom Oar from wilderness to city life underscores a broader theme about aging, resilience, and the shifting balance between independence and interdependence. His journey highlights the challenges faced by those who choose an alternative lifestyle and how even the most self-reliant individuals must eventually reconcile with the passage of time. Yet, through it all, Tom Oar has remained a symbol of strength and humility, a reminder that change does not erase one's values but can, instead, reinforce them in new and meaningful ways. How did they survive the wild for almost 50 years? The struggles of living in the wilderness. Living in the wilderness is a dream for many who yearn to break free from the chaos of modern society. But for Tom and Nancy Oar, it has been a way of life, one filled with profound beauty and deep challenges. Residing far from the city, their lifestyle, showcased on the television series Mountain Men, is a testament to resilience, self-sufficiency, and the human spirit's ability to adapt and endure. But behind the idyllic scenes of snowy landscapes and rustic cabins lies a life riddled with daily struggles, physical labor, and constant uncertainty. One of the most prominent challenges Tom and Nancy faced was the harshness of the Montana wilderness itself. Winters are brutal, often stretching from October to May, with temperatures plummeting well below freezing. Heavy snowfall isolates them for weeks at a time, making even the most basic tasks, like collecting firewood or getting to a nearby town, dangerous and labor-intensive. Survival depends on preparation, and the months leading up to winter are spent in a tireless flurry of chopping wood, preserving food, repairing shelters, and ensuring their animals are safe and adequately fed. Any mistake, delay, or oversight in these preparations can have severe consequences. Healthcare and medical emergencies represent another critical challenge. Living hours away from the nearest hospital or doctor, Tom and Nancy must rely on their own knowledge and resilience when dealing with illness or injury. As they've aged, this concern has grown even more pressing. Cuts, infections, broken bones, or chronic health issues could quickly escalate in such a remote environment. They live with the knowledge that help is not just minutes away. It could take hours, even days, to reach them, especially in winter, when roads become impassable. The couple's life of self-reliance also demands immense physical labor. Tom, a former rodeo cowboy and skilled tanner, spends countless hours trapping, skinning, and preparing animal hides using traditional methods that date back centuries. It's painstaking work that requires strength, precision, and endurance. Nancy plays an equally vital role, helping with chores, food preparation, and maintaining their home. Together, they grow and hunt much of their own food. Gardening in short growing seasons, preserving meat without refrigeration, and hauling water are everyday routines that leave little room for rest. Financial insecurity is another undercurrent in their lifestyle. Living off the grid doesn't mean living for free. The Oars have had to generate income by selling hand-tanned leather goods such as moccasins, coats, and bags. This form of craftsmanship, while rewarding, is also slow and not always lucrative. The market for such goods is niche, and earnings can be unpredictable. Though television exposure brought them some recognition and financial relief, it also introduced the burden of public scrutiny and pressure, which runs counter to their naturally private and solitary life. Social isolation, too, is both a blessing and a burden. While the wilderness offers peace and quiet, it also means being cut off from friends, family, and community support. In times of crisis, whether emotional or physical, there's little help nearby. Holidays, emergencies, and even simple human companionship can take on a deeper, more poignant significance in such a remote setting. For Tom and Nancy, their partnership is not just romantic, it is foundational to their survival. Their mutual trust and cooperation are what keep them going, especially in moments of darkness and doubt. As they have grown older, the physical demands of this life have only become more intense. Aging in the wilderness is its own battle. Every winter feels colder, every log heavier, and every trip into town more taxing. The decision to continue this way of life becomes harder with time. While many admire their resilience, few understand the toll it takes on their bodies and minds. Yet despite all these challenges, harsh winters, medical risks, physical labor, financial uncertainty, and isolation, Tom and Nancy have remained committed to their chosen path. Their life in the wilderness is not just about survival. It is a philosophical statement about freedom, authenticity, and connection to nature. It is a reminder that a simple life is not necessarily an easy one. It demands trade-offs, discipline, and courage that most modern people rarely have to summon. The life of Tom and Nancy Oar in the remote Montana wilderness is a deeply admirable but incredibly challenging one. Their daily struggles with the elements, health, finances, labor, and loneliness paint a vivid portrait of what it truly means to live off the grid. Their story is not just one of survival, but of love, endurance, and the profound human capacity to find meaning and purpose in simplicity, no matter how harsh the circumstances. Is it worth living far away and isolated? In a world where our days are scheduled down to the minute, where our value often feels tied to productivity, and where we rarely find stillness amidst constant noise, there is something hauntingly beautiful about a man like Tom Oar. Through the lens of the History Channel's Mountain Men,
Strange deal, and we're just hoping we can pull through it, you know.
We've come to know him not just as a rugged outdoorsman in the Montana wilderness, but as a quiet philosopher of a forgotten way of life. His story is not a relic of the past. It is a mirror held up to modernity, and for many viewers, a deeply personal call to reevaluate what it means to live fully, freely, and with purpose. Tom Oar's life is both simple and profound. His days are filled with tasks that most would consider burdens: chopping wood, trapping animals, tanning hides, preparing for harsh winters. But there is a sacred rhythm to it all. In every chore lies meaning. In every day, a quiet testament to self-reliance and presence. Watching Tom Oar work with his hands, battle nature's unpredictability, and face each season with humble perseverance stirs something deep within us. It speaks to a yearning that many didn't even realize they had, the longing to be closer to the earth, to oneself, and to a slower, more intentional way of life. In Tom, we see a man who is not ruled by time, but who lives by the sun, the seasons, and the needs of the land. He doesn't chase success or recognition, and yet, paradoxically, he has inspired millions simply by being who he is. The impact of Mountain Men, and of Tom in particular, reaches beyond entertainment. The show has become a kind of modern parable, offering viewers a glimpse into a lifestyle that contrasts so radically with the one most of us live. It prompts reflection, sometimes even discomfort. We watch Tom stock his root cellar, build his own tools, and repair his home by hand, and we are forced to confront our own dependence on convenience. We scroll through our phones while he prepares for snowfall. We order groceries while he traps and processes his own food. It makes us ask difficult, necessary questions. What have we lost in the name of progress? At what cost have we built our modern comforts? Living alone and far in the wilderness is not just about physical separation. It is a spiritual journey. It requires not only strength of body, but strength of mind and heart. Solitude becomes a companion, not a burden. Nature becomes a teacher, not a threat. In the stillness of the forest, there is no room for pretense. The wilderness does not flatter, nor does it forgive. It reveals character, demands resourcefulness, and rewards patience. Tom's life reminds us of the profound value of skills that once sustained generations. Cooking from scratch, making your own clothes, reading the sky for weather signs. These are not outdated relics, but living knowledge that carries dignity. His lifestyle may appear primitive to some, but in truth, it is deeply civilized in the truest sense of the word. It is connected, coherent, and sustainable. What makes Tom Oar's story especially moving is that he does not seek the spotlight. He has no social media account, no brand deals. He lives for the joy of the life he has built, not for the approval of the world watching. And yet, in that quiet authenticity lies his power. Many fans of Mountain Men feel a deep emotional connection to Tom, not just for his survival skills, but for his humility, his kindness, and the obvious love and partnership he shares with Nancy. In an age of cynicism, his life shines with a rare kind of sincerity. Perhaps what Tom teaches us most is this: a good life is not necessarily an easy life. Do you agree? It is one where your efforts are meaningful, your relationships are deep, and your heart is aligned with the place you live. A life where you are not a stranger to yourself. The wilderness is not just a backdrop to Tom's story. It is a character in itself, shaping him, challenging him, and giving him a place to truly belong. As we face increasing disconnection in the modern world, from nature, from each other, and from ourselves, the lives of people like Tom Oar serve as guideposts. We may not all be able or willing to move to the mountains and live off the grid, but we can slow down. We can grow a garden, learn a skill, walk through a forest, or sit in silence more often. We can choose, in small but powerful ways, to live more intentionally. In the end, Mountain Men is not just a show, it is a meditation. And Tom Oar is not just a man of the mountains, he is a quiet teacher, reminding us that there is great wisdom in living simply, deeply, and in harmony with the natural world. In his life, we see a path not often taken, but one that perhaps more of us should consider, even if only in spirit. A good or a bad show. Since its debut in 2012, Mountain Men has developed a loyal fan base and carved out a unique space in the crowded landscape of reality television. Chronicling the lives of men and women who choose to live off the grid in some of North America's most remote wilderness areas, the show has become a symbol of self-reliance and rugged individualism. However, like many long-running reality shows, Mountain Men has also faced its fair share of criticism and controversy. Public feedback has been wide-ranging, some praising its authenticity and educational value, while others challenge its realism, pacing, and ethical implications. Understanding both the admiration and critiques is essential to fully grasp the cultural impact of the show. One of the most common pieces of praise for Mountain Men is its portrayal of a simpler, more grounded way of life. Viewers are drawn to the characters' deep connection to nature, their traditional skills, and their determination to survive without modern comforts. Individuals like Tom Oar, Eustace Conway, and Marty Maiorotto have become icons for those who feel disillusioned by consumer culture and urban living. For many, the show is a breath of fresh air, both literally and figuratively. It serves as a form of escapism that resonates with real longing, a desire to slow down, return to basics, and live a life driven by survival rather than superficial success. Many fans also appreciate the educational value embedded in each episode. The show introduces viewers to ancient crafts, wilderness survival techniques, animal tracking, and seasonal preparation, all woven into the personal stories of each mountain man and woman. It sparks interest in forgotten skills and encourages viewers to consider sustainability, conservation, and personal independence. For this reason, Mountain Men is often praised not just as entertainment, but as an informal lesson in resilience and traditional knowledge. However, the show is not without its detractors. One of the most consistent criticisms is the question of authenticity. While the series is marketed as a documentary-style look into real lives, some viewers and critics have accused it of being partially scripted or overly dramatized for television. The narrative editing, complete with dramatic music, suspenseful cliffhangers, and tightly structured story arcs, has led some to question whether the dangers and challenges faced by the cast are as spontaneous as they appear. Skeptics argue that some scenarios seem staged or exaggerated, undermining the credibility of the show's claim to realism. In addition to concerns about scripting, the depiction of danger has raised ethical questions. Critics have pointed out that the show may romanticize risky behavior in the wilderness without providing sufficient context or warning. While the characters are undoubtedly experienced and capable, the casual portrayal of activities like solo wilderness survival, bear encounters, and harsh winter treks may mislead viewers into underestimating the true dangers of such lifestyles. Some educators and outdoors experts caution that the show, while entertaining, does not adequately emphasize the years of training and knowledge required to live safely in such conditions. Animal rights groups have also voiced concerns over the show's content. Mountain Men often features scenes involving hunting, trapping, and skinning animals, which are integral parts of the cast's traditional livelihoods. While these practices are legally and culturally accepted in many rural communities, they have sparked criticism from viewers who feel uncomfortable with the graphic nature of such content. In response, supporters of the show argue that these portrayals are honest reflections of life in the wild and not intended to glorify violence against animals, but rather to illustrate a way of life that is respectful of nature's cycles. Another criticism centers on the lack of diversity in the show's cast and narrative perspectives. For much of its run, Mountain Men has focused primarily on white, male characters, many of whom are older. While the show does feature a few women and younger individuals in later seasons, critics argue that it still represents a narrow vision of wilderness living and doesn't fully explore the diverse range of people, especially indigenous communities who have lived off the land for generations. The absence of these voices is viewed by some as a missed opportunity to broaden the show's cultural scope and historical context. From a production standpoint, some viewers have also expressed frustration with the pacing and repetitiveness of the series. Episodes often follow similar patterns: preparing for winter, dealing with animal threats, fixing homestead problems, and while this reflects the cyclical nature of wilderness life, it can also lead to viewer fatigue. Longtime fans sometimes express that newer seasons lack the depth and spontaneity that characterized the show's earlier years. Despite these critiques, Mountain Men continues to enjoy strong ratings and dedicated viewership. For every criticism, there are countless fans who defend the show passionately, emphasizing the genuine lifestyle of its cast and the inspiration it provides. Many viewers form emotional bonds with the characters, especially older individuals like Tom Oar, who is often regarded as the heart of the show. The public feedback reflects this dual reality. While some take issue with its format or messaging, others view it as a rare tribute to the spirit of endurance, craftsmanship, and quiet strength. Mountain Men is more than a television show. It is a reflection of our collective longing for meaning, connection, and the wild places still left in the world. Now in his early 80s, Tom Oar lives quietly, no longer in the snowy wilderness, but still surrounded by love, animals, and the spirit of self-sufficiency that defines him. His legacy endures not just in the reruns of Mountain Men, but in the example he set of living according to your values, embracing hard work, and remaining humble through fame, fortune, and sorrow. His life is a reminder that the good old days aren't just a memory, they're a choice. And for Tom, that choice was made every day in the mountains, in the snow, beside the wood stove, and in the love he shared with Nancy. Tom Oar's journey is both inspiring and bittersweet. It's a celebration of living close to nature, of partnership through adversity, and of the quiet courage it takes to age with dignity. Though he may have stepped away from the spotlight, the legacy of his rugged, gentle spirit continues to resonate with everyone who dreams of a simpler, truer way of life. Will you leave your life now and live in the wild? Write your comments below and let's hear it. See you in the next one.